Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty important, a topic that really touches a lot of lives.
Yeah, definitely. It's a system, designed to help, but wow, it can feel complicated.
Exactly. Complicated, confusing,
Yeah.
sometimes just, exhausting. We're talking about the National Disability Insurance Scheme, the NDIS.
And specifically sort of navigating your NDIS plan.
That document.
Right.
It holds so much potential.
It really does. Access to support, chances to grow, maybe a path to a better life. But the reality for so many people, participants and families, is you get this thick plan, maybe a good budget on paper, and you still feel completely stuck. We hear it all the time, families with really decent funding approved,
Right.
but they're hardly using it. Or they're spending hours every week just on the admin side.
Oh, the admin, the bookings, managing everything, the invoicing.
It can feel like the system itself is, working against you somehow, like it's broken.
Absolutely. You stare at this plan and you're thinking, okay, I've got this resource, but how do I actually make it work for us? How does this budget turn into real progress, a better life? But the source material we're diving into today, it's from excerpts of a piece called NDIS Isn't Broken, You Just Need a Better Strategy. And it offers a perspective that, it might surprise you, maybe even challenge that feeling of you being broken.
It really does. The main point it makes is, look, for a lot of people, the core problem isn't that the whole NDIS system is fundamentally busted, or that the plan itself is bad.
Okay.
It argues the real issue often is the strategy, or maybe the lack of a strategy in how you use the plan.
Like having all the ingredients but no recipe.
Exactly. You've got the bricks, the timber, everything you need, but no blueprint, no map, so you can't build the house you actually want.
Okay, that's a really powerful way to put it. A big distinction. It kind of shifts the focus, doesn't it? Away from just blaming the system towards thinking about how individuals, how families can approach it differently, maybe more effectively.
Precisely. So our mission today, using the source piece as our guide, is to really unpack that idea. Can having a proper, deliberate strategy actually change your whole NDIS experience?
Yeah, can it lead to more joy, like the piece says, more impact from your supports, less stress?
And crucially, can we look at the specific framework this piece talks about? Does it give you that missing map?
We want to try and cut through that feeling of being overwhelmed,
No.
and show how maybe this info can make the plan feel less like a bureaucratic nightmare and more like the powerful tool it's supposed to be.
Exactly. Turning that frustration into, effective action.
Okay, let's get right into it then. The problem itself, as the source describes it, why do so many people, even with a plan in hand, feel so stuck? Like it's just not working for them?
Yeah, the source tackles this directly, and it does it with a lot of empathy, I think. It says really clearly it's not about people failing the NDIS. Oh, that's good. Because that word failing feels so personal.
It does, doesn't it? It feels like blame. But the piece argues, no, people are basically just set up without a map.
Set up without a map.
You get this big document, right? Budget split into core, capital, capacity building, maybe lists of providers. But what you usually don't get is tailored guidance on how to actually weave all those bits together, how to use them to build a life that feels, as the source puts it, personal or powerful.
So you have the resources,
Yeah,
but no real blueprint for using them strategically.
that's it. That setup without a map analogy, it just really lands, doesn't it?
It does. It's like getting a car, full tank of gas, keys in hand,
Yeah.
and someone says, go somewhere great. But you've got no directions, no GPS, no idea even what somewhere great means for you.
Perfect analogy. And the source talks a bit about support coordinators here too. It acknowledges how valuable they are,
Absolutely.
but also points out a common challenge. They're often amazing at navigating the system. The forms, the billing, finding providers,
Yeah.
practical stuff.
Exactly. The source calls it focusing on the forms, which is crucial, but maybe less on the deeper stuff, the life goals, the feelings part.
Right.
And again, that's not knocking support coordinators. They're often swamped. It's more about how the system kind of shapes their role sometimes.
Okay. So they help manage the how of getting the services within the rules. But maybe the system doesn't always free them up to really dig into the why behind it all, or help you totally rethink your week using the plan differently.
That's the distinction the source seems to be making, and the result. The common, understandable outcome, according to this piece, is that people tend to fall into a pattern, just rebooking the same basic supports. over and over.
Like what sort of things?
Well, cleaning help, transport to appointments, maybe some standard community access support.
Okay, the essential.
Absolutely essential things, but they become the default choices because they're familiar, they're easier to arrange maybe, they meet those immediate needs. But often it happens without a clear sort of forward-looking vision, like how are these bookings actually helping me reach a bigger goal or get towards a future I want?
So it becomes more about filling the calendar slots with something, rather than strategically using that time and money to build towards something specific, something life-changing maybe.
Exactly. It's reactive, not proactive. And the source shares this really quite touching story, an anecdote from a family they worked with. This family was supported by Yirra Care. The piece mentions them as an organization using this strategic approach.
Okay.
And this family, on paper, their plan looked amazing. The source calls it a great plan on paper. Loads of hours, good funding across the board.
Sounds ideal.
You'd think so. But despite all that, the family felt completely stuck. The quote from them in the source is just, wow. They said, "We still feel stuck. We don't know what's actually possible."
Oh, that's rough. To have the resources right there, but still feel limited, like you don't know what you can do.
So relatable for many, I think.
Yeah. So what didn't they know was possible? What did the source say they were missing out on?
Well, this is where that missing map idea really shows up. The source points out a few things, like they didn't realize they could use their capacity building funding.
Okay, capacity building, that's the one for skills and independence, right?
Exactly. They didn't know they could use that funding for things like, say, outdoor adventures, getting out in nature with support. They also hadn't thought about creative sessions, art, music, whatever, as more than just fun.
Right, like a hobby.
Yeah, but the source points out, no, these can be funded because they actively build real skills. Maybe fine motor skills, communication.
Confidence.
Huge confidence booster, and social confidence too.
So things that look like leisure on the surface, they can actually be legitimate therapeutic or skill-building supports if framed correctly under the NDIS rules.
If the activity helps build a skill, improves your ability to do things, helps you connect with the community towards a goal you've set, then yeah, it often fits. The source also mentioned this family didn't know they could sort of combine supports, like meal prep support. Instead of just having someone come and cook for them, they could use that support time to learn to cook alongside the worker, aiming for independence in the kitchen.
Building their own skills.
Exactly. And the source notes, doing it that way might actually mean they need less support for meals over time as they get more capable themselves.
That's a total mindset shift, isn't it? From having things done for you to using the support to help you learn to do it yourself. It's like investing in your own future freedom.
Absolutely. And it just highlights, again, the resources might be there, but if you don't know how to use them strategically for growth,
you just stick with what you know. Maintain things.
You default to maintaining the status quo. The source sums it up with this great analogy. They were playing the NDIS game, but no one showed them how to win.
Playing the game, but no one showed them how to win.
Wow, they had the board, the pieces, the money, but didn't get the strategy guide, didn't even know what winning looked like for them within the game.
That captures that feeling of confusion, of spinning your wheels perfectly. And this isn't just one family's feeling, is it? The source mentioned the statistic.
Yeah, a really telling one. It cited that over 83% of NDIS participants say they're unsure if they're using their plan properly.
Over 80%. That's huge.
It is. And the source is careful here. It frames it not as, people doing something wrong,
right,
but as strong evidence that the system is complex and it often lacks that clear built-in strategy guide.
So the uncertainty is common, it's understandable, given how things are often presented.
Exactly. It's not a personal failing, it's more of a systemic gap in providing that strategic how-to.
Okay. So the problem is clear. Lack of a map, lack of strategy, leading to feeling stuck despite having resources. What's the solution proposed in the source material? What's the fix?
Well, the core solution, the framework it lays out, is something they call the NDIS Leverage Loop.
The leverage loop. Okay, sounds dynamic, like getting more out of something.
That's exactly the idea. The fundamental concept behind it is a really big, but actually quite simple shift in how you think about your plan. It's about reframing it. Stop seeing it just as a budget sheet or a list of services you need to book.
Okay.
The Leverage Loop wants you to see your NDIS plan as a tool to build a life, not just a full calendar. calendar.
Oh, I like that. Build a life, not just fill a calendar. That feels instantly more empowering.
Doesn't it? It shifts it from being a passive admin chore to being an active creative process. You're building something. You're constructing the life you want.
It's not just scheduling appointments anymore. It's like designing your week, focusing on your goals, shaping your experience.
Precisely. And the source argues pretty strongly that when you make that shift, when you move from the old way of thinking, like, how do I spend this money, or how do I use these hours, to the new perspective of, okay, how can these hours, this funding, specifically help us grow, help us smile more, feel more free, more independent? When you do that, the source says everything changes.
Wow.
It transforms the plan from something that feels like a brag, maybe even a burden, into a real opportunity for positive change.
And the leverage loop itself,
that
gives you the concrete steps to actually do that, to make that shift happen.
Yes. The source presents it as a simple idea, but a very clear strategy. It's explicitly designed, they say, to help people unlock more joy, more impact, and less stress from the exact same plan they already have.
From the exact same plan, that's key.
It really is. It emphasizes often it's not about needing more money, it's about using what you have, the funding and the flexibility that's already there, much, much more effectively, towards things that actually matter to you.
Okay. So it's a structure, a way to go from feeling buried in paperwork to actually making progress in your life. The source outlines 5 steps in this loop, right?
Yeah, 5 steps. It's the proposed path, as they say, from paperwork to progress.
Let's break them down. Step 1.
Step 1 is goals first, not services.
Goals first, not services.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds like it hits that missing map problem right on the head.
It absolutely does. It's the foundation, the big shift. And it feels a bit backwards, maybe, because the system often throws services at you first. You see the categories, you look up providers.
Right.
But the source says, hold on, resist that urge. The instruction is, forget the list of providers, forget the hours. Just for a moment.
Put them aside.
Yeah. The very, very first thing you need to do in this framework is define what you actually want your life to look like, your desired outcomes. Start by asking that big question. What does a great week look like for us? What do we want to be able to do, to feel, to experience?
So you're literally painting a picture of the life you want, the feelings, the abilities, the experiences, before you even glance at the NDIS price guide or a list of who's providing services nearby.
Exactly. Define the destination first.
And the source gave examples of what these goals could look like, didn't they? Not just fuzzy ideas.
No, very concrete things, like maybe wanting more independence in the kitchen, being able to make your own lunch, maybe. Or setting a goal for regular social outings, connecting with friends or joining a club.
Okay.
Or maybe it's about feeling calmer and more confident outdoors if going to busy places feels stressful right now. Real, tangible things that impact daily life.
Got it. And then once you have that clear picture of where you want to head, then you bring the NDIS plan back into it.
Yes. That's the second crucial part of step 1. Reverse engineer that life using the plan. You figured out the what and the where, the life you're aiming for. Now, you look at your NDIS plan and see it as the toolkit, the resources you have to help you build that specific life.
Okay.
The source uses that brilliant analogy again here. Don't buy bricks before you draw the house. Your goals, your desired life, that's the house you're designing. That's the blueprint, the NDIS plan. That provides the bricks, the materials, the tools, but you absolutely need the design first, otherwise you just end up with a pile of stuff that doesn't really serve your purpose.
That makes it so clear. The plan serves the goal, not the other way around.
Exactly. And they bring back the example of Jordan to show how this works. Jordan's main goal is specific. Gain independence and confidence.
Okay.
So following goals first, you don't just book generic support hours. The strategy is to look at that specific goal, independence and confidence, and then deliberately pick the NDIS supports that will most effectively help Jordan achieve that.
And what kind of supports did the source suggest could work for Jordan, funded through the plan?
Things directly targeted at those outcomes. So yes, maybe cooking support, but with the explicit aim of Jordan learning kitchen skills for independence, not just getting meals made.
Right.
Maybe supported nature walks or outdoor activities, specifically designed to build confidence in different settings, maybe improve fitness too, and community outings, but chosen and structured carefully to boost social confidence and practice independent interaction, not just random trips.
Okay, so the big insight here is the same pot of money, the same budget or hours, could fund completely different things depending on whether you start by asking, what service can I book?
Yeah.
Versus asking, What's my goal? And how can the plan help me get there?
Absolutely. The source puts it perfectly. Same budget, new focus. All the energy, the effort, the resources are now aimed directly at Jordan's personal goal: independence, confidence, not just booking what's easy or familiar.
That first step is huge. It makes sure everything you do with the plan is actually purposeful, driven by your vision.
It's foundational. It ensures supports are strategic.
Okay, that's a massive shift right there. So once your goals are clear, what's step 2 of the leverage loop?
Step 2 is reallocate, don't just spend.
Reallocate, don't just spend.
This one's all about understanding and using the flexibility that's actually built into your NDIS plan.
So it's not just rigidly spending on predefined things. It's about being dynamic,
Yeah,
smart with the funds.
precisely. The core idea here is that your NDIS funding, especially in some categories, isn't locked into exactly the same activities every single week or month.
Right.
Life changes, right? Your needs shift, your energy levels go up and down, opportunities pop up.
Totally.
So this step encourages you to see that flexibility and actually use it strategically.
Can you give an example? How might that work in practice based on the source?
Yeah, the source uses a really common practical one. Let's say you have support hours in your plan for domestic stuff like cleaning.
Okay.
But maybe one week you're feeling good, more energetic, or maybe a family member pitches in.
Yeah.
And the cleaning just feels manageable. You don't actually need those specific support hours for cleaning that week.
Right. Happens all the time.
So instead of just letting those hours or the funding value they represent sit there unused or just roll over, this step says, no, you can potentially reallocate that capacity, shift it somewhere else within the plan's rules, of course.
Okay, so if the cleaning hours aren't needed this week, where could that resource go instead? What did the source suggest?
Well, it suggests using that freed up capacity for something that lines up better with your goals right now. For instance, maybe use the funding equivalent of those cleaning hours for an extra session with a support worker for social skill building if connecting more is a big goal.
Ah, okay.
Or maybe use it to go to a community workshop that looks interesting, something related to your goals.
So it's about spotting where you have a bit of slack in one area
Yeah.
and consciously moving that resource to another area where it can make a bigger difference, or grab an opportunity right then.
That's exactly it. And the source really stresses this is not about spending more, it's about spending smarter.
Right.
It's about being nimble, being responsive with the resources you've got within your plan, period. They shared another really good example of a family doing this. They shifted 3 domestic hours.
Okay, 3 hours usually for cleaning.
Yeah. And they used that funding capacity instead to pay for 2 outdoor art workshops for the person.
Wow, that's a big switch. Cleaning to creative workshops outdoors, what happened? What was the impact?
The source said this simple shift had a really noticeable positive effect. It boosted mood and social interaction.
That's amazing.
Think about it. Instead of just, a tidy house for a few hours,
Yeah.
the person got a mood boost, did something creative they enjoyed, and connected with others socially. That's huge value.
That really shows the power of reallocating smartly. It changes the plan from just covering needs to being this flexible tool that can actually boost well-being and quality of life moment by moment. It means the plan isn't just rigid.
Exactly. Leveraging that flexibility for maximum personal benefit.
Okay, this is making so much sense. On to step 3 then.
Yeah.
Activate every funding bucket. This sounds like making sure you use all the parts of your plan, not just the obvious ones.
That's spot on. And it's a really common issue the source highlights. See, many NDIS plans have funding spread across different categories: core, capital, capacity building. The source calls them buckets. But super often, categories like capacity building or increased social and community participation, they just sit there, barely touched. Or maybe not used at all through the whole plan.
Yeah, I can see how that happens. Those ones might feel less clear than core supports for daily care or transport. Maybe they feel like optional extras, or it's just harder to figure out how to spend that money.
And the source jumps right on that misconception. It's a critical point they make. They say very clearly, these funds are not just bonus funds, not optional extras. In fact, they argue these specific categories, capacity building, social and community participation, are often the best funds for growth.
The best funds for growth. Really? That's kind of counterintuitive for some, maybe. Why does the source say they're the best?
Because that's literally what they're designed for by the NDIS. Their whole purpose is to help you build skills, become more independent, boost your confidence, and make real connections in your community.
Oh, okay.
So while core supports are vital, totally essential for daily needs and staying well, it's often in capacity building and social participation foundation where the really transformative stuff happens. Skill building, more autonomy, a richer social life. That's where it lives.
So if my goals first, back in step 1, involve learning something new or getting more independent or connecting more, these untouched buckets are actually the exact place I should be looking.
Exactly. They are the engine room for making progress on those kinds of goals. And the source gives this fantastic list of examples, really diverse and inspiring things that often fit into these underused buckets, just to show the range.
Yeah, what kind of things?
Okay, things like adaptive yoga or dance builds physical skills, sure, but also great for social connection. Transport training, that's a direct investment in independence, learning to use buses or trains confidently.
Big one.
Huge. Team cooking classes, learn life skills, but do it socially, collaboratively, fun. Bushwalking in a supported group, physical activity, nature, community, confidence, all rolled into one. And even creative stuff like photography or digital media workshops. Builds new skills, gives you an outlet, maybe even opens doors to hobbies or work down the track.
Wow, those examples really open up your thinking, don't they? It's
Right.
way beyond just basic care. It's about building capabilities, building connections.
It broadens the horizon of what your plan can actually do for you. And the source gives this really simple, practical test.
Oh yeah, what is it?
Just ask yourself, if it builds skills or community, it probably fits.
If it builds skills or community, it probably fits. I like that.
It's a simple way to think about it.
Yeah.
It empowers you to look beyond the usual stuff and see how all sorts of activities could be a really good, legitimate use of NDIS funds, as long as they link back to your goals for growth and participation.
That little test makes exploring those buckets feel much less scary. Okay, so we've set goals, we know we can reallocate, we're activating all the funding. What's step 4?
Step 4 is build a life rhythm.
Build a life rhythm. Okay.
This is about taking all those activities and supports you've identified and weaving them into your week in a way that feels, natural, supportive, sustainable, rather than just having a random jumble of appointments.
So creating a flow, a predictable pattern, not just stuff scattered everywhere.
Exactly. The source contrasts this with what many people experience just making random bookings whenever something comes up, which can make the week feel fragmented, maybe even chaotic.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So this step is about being intentional, creating a rhythm, a predictability, using your support hours to actually give some shape to your week.
How does the source suggest doing that, creating this rhythm?
The main idea is to create themed days, or maybe just regular patterns for different types of activities or focus areas. So you might allocate certain kinds of support or activities to specific days or times. It gives each part of your week a particular feel or purpose.
Themed days. I think the source gave some concrete examples, right?
They did, yeah. Just to illustrate how you could group different support types logically, they suggested themes like maybe Mondays are focused on life skills.
Okay.
So you use support time that day for things like practicing cooking, doing some budgeting work, learning household tasks, maybe navigating appointments.
Right. Skills day.
Then maybe Wednesdays are themed around adventure.
Adventure Wednesday. I like it.
Yeah, using support for planned outings, exploring a park, visiting a museum or library, maybe some community sport or recreation, getting out and about, and perhaps Fridays are dedicated to creative expression.
Okay.
Reserving time for art classes, music therapy, digital projects, whatever creative hobbies you have that need support.
I really love that idea of themed days. It just immediately makes the week sound more structured, more purposeful, less like a mad scramble to fit everything in.
Exactly. And the source points out 2 big benefits that really connect with what people often say about managing the NDIS. First, it obviously adds structure, which can be really grounding, helps manage energy. But second, and this is huge, it significantly reduces decision fatigue.
Ah, decision fatigue. That's so real.
It really is. If you know, okay, Monday is generally my life skills day. You're not waking up Monday morning wondering, oh God, what support should I book? What should we do?
Right, you have a starting point.
You have a theme. It narrows down the options, makes the planning so much simpler, less mentally draining.
That point about decision fatigue is incredibly relevant.
Yeah.
Anyone managing complex schedules, especially with support coordination on top, having a rhythm must just lift such a weight.
Absolutely. This whole approach helps the week feel less like just a list of appointments you have to get through.
Yeah.
And more like a regular, fulfilling life, which is just supported and enabled by the plan. It makes the support feel integrated, part of a meaningful life, not just separate service drop-ins.
Okay, this is brilliant. Goals first, reallocate, activate buckets, build a rhythm. What's the 5th and final step? the clincher.
Step 5, review every 90 days.
Review every 90 days.
This is the crucial step that kind of closes the loop. It makes sure your strategy stays relevant and keeps working over time.
So it's not like set it up once and forget it.
Definitely not. The source really emphasizes this. The best NDIS plans and the strategies for using them, they can't be static. They need to be living, breathing documents.
Because life changes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Life changes, your goals might shift, you figure out what's working well, what's maybe not hitting the mark. So your strategy has to be able to adapt to and needs to be dynamic.
And how often does the source say you should do this check-in, this review?
They recommend reviewing your whole strategy, how you're using the plan, every 3 months, roughly every 90 days.
Okay, quarterly.
Yeah. It seems like a good balance, frequent enough to catch things early, make adjustments, but not so frequent that the review itself becomes another massive chore.
Makes sense. And what should you actually look at during these reviews? What questions should you ask yourself according to the source?
They give some really specific outcome-focused questions to guide you, and they link right back to the earlier steps. First, the big one, are we closer to our goals?
Connecting back to step 1.
Directly, it's the ultimate test, right? Is the strategy actually moving you towards the life you wanted to build?
Okay.
What else? Second question is about impact. What support felt meaningful?
Meaningful, I love that word.
Yeah, it gets you thinking about which activities, which services, which parts of your rhythm are genuinely making a positive difference, sparking joy, providing real benefit.
And the flip side.
The third question is just as important for finding what needs changing. What didn't spark joy or growth?
Ooh, okay. The honesty check.
Totally. This helps you identify things that might just be filling time or causing stress or just not delivering the results you hoped for. It flags them as things that might need tweaking or even stopping.
Those questions feel really practical and very person-centered. It's about evaluating the experience and the actual progress, not just ticking boxes or spending budget.
Exactly. And the source really hammers home the importance of doing this regularly. Adjust early, not after the plan ends.
Right. Don't wait till it's too late.
Because if you wait until the plan's nearly over to realize, oh, that support wasn't really working, or that weekly rhythm was actually draining me, you've lost valuable time, energy, maybe resources.
Yeah.
Reviewing regularly lets you make course corrections along the way.
And even small changes found during the review, can they make a difference?
The source says absolutely. Even a tiny tweak can have a big impact on how well the plan works for you, how positive it feels. They give examples like maybe just changing who delivers the support. Sometimes a different support worker, different personality, different approach, just clicks better.
Sure.
Or it could be changing where it happens. Maybe doing that community activity in a different spot makes it way more engaging or easier to get to. Small changes, potentially big results.
So the regular review keeps the whole strategy alive, flexible, responsive. Make sure it stays lined up with your real goals, your changing needs, and what you're actually finding helpful and enjoyable. Continuous improvement.
It closes the loop perfectly, makes the leverage loop a true cycle. Plan, act, evaluate, refine, repeat.
Okay, this NDIS Leverage Loop framework. Wow. Goals first, reallocate, activate buckets, build rhythm, review every 90 days. It really does feel like that strategic map that the source said was missing. It provides such a clear path. Let's bring this right back to the listener now. Someone listening who's been feeling stuck, maybe overwhelmed, maybe unsure if they're doing it right. How does understanding this framework actually help them, empower them?
Well, I think the core message from the source, the one I really hope lands, is this. Your NDIS plan is a doorway, not a dead end. That feeling of being trapped, by the admin, by the rules you think are there, by the confusion, it's real, it's common. But the source argues pretty convincingly that feeling doesn't have to be your whole NDIS story.
It's about seeing the potential, again, the possibility within the plan, not just seeing the hassle.
Yes. And the key takeaway is, well, it's powerful and I think really hopeful for a lot of people. You probably don't automatically need more funding to feel more in control. You don't need to wait for some miracle worker to swoop in.
Right.
What this source says you likely need and what this framework offers is simply a clearer strategy for using the resources you already have.
And for that huge number of people, over 83%, who feel unsure if they're using their plan properly, this gives them something concrete, a step-by-step way through that uncertainty.
It absolutely does. The source explains that adopting this leverage loop way of thinking gives you a fundamentally better way to think about your plan. It takes it from being scary and confusing to feeling clearer, calmer, less stressful to manage because you actually have a purpose guiding what you do.
It really shifts the whole focus, doesn't it? From just managing the paperwork and the money to actually making real, measurable progress towards building a better life, a more fulfilling life.
Precisely. And the source wraps up by sharing the philosophy behind their work at Yirra, which just perfectly captures the goal here. They say, we're not here to fill hours. We're here to build better weeks filled with energy, connection, and pride.
Building better weeks, not just filling hours.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. That says it all, really.
Yeah.
Moving from admin to life enhancement.
It truly does. And the ultimate promise, the hope offered by the source, is that if you use this kind of strategic approach, you can actually turn your plan into a pathway and your goals into real lived outcomes. It's about stepping up from being just a recipient of services to being the active architect of the life you want and using your NDIS plan as your main toolkit for building it.
This whole deep dive into the idea that maybe the NDIS isn't broken, maybe we just need a better strategy. It really does reframe how you look at that plan, doesn't it? It stops being just a budget you have to spend. It becomes this dynamic, powerful resource you can leverage for growth, for independence, for connection, for joy.
It really invites you into that designer role, using the plan as your set of tools to build the life you actually want.
Absolutely. Okay, as we finish up this deep dive, we really want to encourage you listening right now. Take a moment. Think about your own NDIS plan, or maybe a plan you help someone else with. Think about it through this leverage loop lens we've been discussing.
Yeah, maybe think about which step feels like the biggest hurdle for you right now, or maybe which step feels the most exciting. Which one holds the most potential, maybe, for a positive change in your experience, or the experience of the person you support.
And we want to leave you with a final thought to chew on this week, something sparked by this source material. If your NDIS plan is meant to be like a compass, guiding you towards your best life, what's just one small direction you could point that compass towards this week? One tiny action, one decision. Focus specifically on growth or joy or building a skill, rather than just booking the same old familiar service.
Yeah, challenge yourself. Identify just one small goal, maybe something from a goals first list if you made one, and just think, how could my plan, its resources, its flexibility, help me take even one tiny step towards that goal this week? It could be the very start of building your own better rhythm, your own better weeks.
That tiny tweak, that one intentional step, maybe that's the spark that starts building those better weeks the source talks about, filled with energy, connection, and pride.
Until next time.
The power of the disability.